Now to continue with the part of the cardiovascular system, we have the blood cells already. Okay, so first start, we have the red blood cells. Okay, so sabi dito, they are biconcave. These manufactured in the bone marrow. Okay, so meron silang unique na biconcave shape yung mga red blood cells natin. So nagre-resemble ngayon ng flattened na disc with a concave center on both sides. So etong shape na to, ito yung nagiging dahilan kung bakit nag-i-increase yung surface area ng cell para ma-facilitate yung efficient na gas exchange. Okay? And then manufactured in the bone marrow. So yung mga red blood cells natin, they are produced in the red bone marrow through a process what we call as the erythropoiesis. Okay? Iba naman yung hematopoiesis. Ang hematopoiesis kasi that it's a blood cell production. So that it's a general term. Pero kung titignan natin yung red blood cell production mismo, we call that one as erythropoiesis. So palitan nyo lang to, erythropoiesis, palitan nyo lang yung TIN into SIS. That is erythropoiesis. Okay? Ano yung erythropoietin? Ito is yung blood cell or yung red blood cell production into the red bone marrow. We call that one as erythropoiesis. Now, si erythropoietin, that is the hormone na nagre-regulate into the process of erythropoiesis. Okay? Which is being produced by the kidney para in response sa mababa na level ng oxygen in the blood. Okay? Now, ano yung lifespan ng mga red blood cells natin? So, yung mga red blood cells natin, they have a finite lifespan of about 120 days. Okay, 120 days lang. So, as they age, yung flexibility nila nagdi-decrease and they will become more fragile. And yung mga age or damage na red blood cells natin, they are removed from circulation by macrophages in the spleen and in the liver. Okay? So yung mga, kasi sabi dito, contains hemoglobin which is responsible in carrying oxygen or carrying oxygen in the blood. So yung hemoglobin dito, this is an iron conjugated protein. Okay? Iron conjugated protein na content ng red blood cell para ma-facilitate yung pag-transport ng oxygen sa blood. Now, in terms na damage na or aged na yung mismong red blood cell, so kumbaga after 120 days na, yung hemoglobin, it will be broken down and it will be, and yung components niya will be recycled. Now, paano mangyayari? Yung hemoglobin ngayon na component ng red blood cell, so saan sila pupunta? Along with the red blood cell, saan na sila pupunta? It will go on into the liver's metabolism. Okay? Mapupunta ngayon yung metabolism ngayon ng liver, okay, i-metabolize niya yung hemoglobin and yung mismong output ng liver's metabolism with these components, it will now cause yung pagiging greenish color ng bile. Okay? So, yun yung nangyayari. So, ano ba yung purpose ng bile? That is yung nag-emulsify, na produce ng liver, and then it will emulsify yung fat. Okay? Ine-emulsify niya yung fat para magamit as energy later on if the animal will not eat, kumbaga. So, parang, di ba, that's what I have said sa carbohydrates, okay, na kumbaga, majority of the nutrients na ginagamit ng animals natin, we have the carbohydrates. But then there are excess na carbohydrates na hindi nagagamit ng animal in a day. So yun yung nai-store in the liver, okay, in the form of glycogen, and then it will be transformed into fat. And then once na nag-fasting yung animal, hindi mo pinakain yung animal, yun yung gagamitin ngayon ng animal as an energy. Okay, so ma-emulsify yung fat through the aid of the bile. Okay? And then meron tayo dito absence of nucleus and other organelles. So walang nucleus and organelle kasi 'di ba if we call a cell to be a cell, kailangan merong mga nucleus, mayroong mga organelles. But then for the red blood cells, there is an absence of nucleus and other organelles. Okay? Ano yung main reason kung bakit kaya absence? Para ma-facilitate para ma-allow na merong mas madaming space for the hemoglobin. Okay? Para mas efficient yung oxygen transport ng red blood cells. Okay? And then next one, we have the white blood cells or yung tinatawag natin na leukocytes. Okay? So sila naman yung mga blood cells that can be considered as complete cells. Kasi meron silang, they contain nucleus and other organelles unlike sa RBC na hindi. Kasi dito naman meron silang organelles and other and nucleus kasi they do not contain hemoglobin. Okay? They are just usually responsible for the defense or protection of the body. Okay? So they usually protect yung body against any disease or foreign materials. So they are being produced then in the stem cells of the bone marrow, and if for the red blood cells it's 120 days, for the white blood cells it's only around 2 weeks lang. Okay? It's around 2 weeks only. No, meron tayong dalawang classification ng white blood cells. We have the granulocytes and then we have the agranulocytes. So let's start with the granulocytes muna. Okay? We have here the neutrophil. So they usually account around 55 to 70% of the white blood cells. So sila yung pinaka-most abundant. Okay? Sila yung pinaka-most abundant type ng white blood cells and they are very essential for the body's defense against bacterial infections. And then kung makikita ninyo dito, they are phagocytic. Anong ibig sabihin ng phagocytic? Meaning to say they can engulf, they can digest bacteria and other foreign particles. Okay? So ano yung process pag ganun, yung neutrophil na involved in the innate na immune response, we call that one as phagocytosis. Okay? So, sila yung, since sila yung pinaka-abundant sa mga white blood cells natin, so sila yung kina-consider as first responders. Okay? Sila yung pinakauna, first white blood cells. Kumbaga sa tao, kumbaga merong disgrasya na nangyari, ang pinakauna na pupunta doon sa scene is either police or ambulansya. So in terms of ganito naman, if there is an infection, if there is an injury, ang unang pupunta is or ang unang ang unang shield, kumbaga ang unang pupunta, we have the neutrophils. Okay? Sila yung una na mag-a-arrive at the site of infection or inflammation. Okay? So papaano to? Or kumbaga, siguro ang question, papaano nila na-detect na merong infection or inflammation? Okay? Ang nangyayari dito, they are attracted to the area by chemical signals that are being released from the damaged tissues. Yun yung nangyayari. And then another one, si neutrophil, nagre-release ito ng enzyme and reactive oxygen species para ma-destroy yung mga engulfed na pathogen. And this process is known as the respiratory burst. Okay? Nagre-release sila ng enzyme and at the same time yung mga reactive na oxygen species para ma-destroy yung mga pathogen. The next one, we have the eosinophils. So, eosinophils naman is around 1 to 4% only of the whole white blood cells. Sila yung second to the last na pinakamaliit. Okay? Pinakamaliit yung population. So ang ang pinaka-function naman nito is more on parasite defense. So more on parasitic worms. Sila yung effective. Sila yung white blood cells na nagiging first responders naman in terms of the defense against parasitic infection. Kasi nagre-release sila ng toxin na harmful sa mga parasites para matulungan na ma-eliminate etong mga invaders na to. Okay? More on parasite defense. And allergic responses, of course. So, parasite defense and then allergic responses. So, like for example, in terms of allergic reactions or asthma, okay, nagre-release ito ng mga substances na tumutulong na ma-modulate yung immune response. And then next one, we have the basophils. Ito naman, sila yung pinaka-rare. Kasi 0.5 to 1% only of the white blood cells ay basophils. So involved din sila sa allergic reaction and inflammatory responses. Okay? So nagre-release sila ng histamine. Okay? Nagre-release sila ng histamine. Etong histamine na to, this is a chemical na involved sa inflammatory response. So ang nangyayari, if they will release histamine, yung histamine siya yung nagiging cause kung bakit nag-i-increase yung blood vessel permeability para ma-allow yung white blood cells na makapag-move easily doon sa site of infection or injury. So similar kanina kay eosinophil, si basophil involved din sa allergic reaction. So they will release histamine and other chemicals in response to allergens. Okay? Parang kung titignan natin, halos same sila ng function ni eosinophil. Pero kung si eosinophil, mas significant yung impact niya compared sa mga parasites. Si basophil, ganun din naman siya, but then it is in a lesser one. Okay? It is a lesser one. And then we have here the agranulocytes. We have the lymphocytes as first one. Okay? Ito naman is around 20 to 40% of the white blood cells yung meron sa kanya. Okay, yung mga lymphocytes natin. And it is divided into three. We have the T cells, the B cells, and then we have the NK cells or the natural killer cells. Ito mga T cells natin are, we call this one as T lymphocytes. Okay? T lymphocytes. So eto naman, ano kaya, bakit kaya naging T cells dito? It's because of the thymus. Okay? It stands, yung T cells na to, it stands for the thymus. This is an organ doon sa upper chest, behind sa breastbone. Okay? So yung mga T cells natin kasi they usually mature and undergo development doon sa thymus. Kaya doon na derive yung pangalan niya na T cells. So meron tayong dalawa na types ng T cells natin. We have the helper T cells and then we have the cytotoxic T cells. Pero ang pinaka-function kasi ni T cells is more on recognition of antigens. Okay? They can recognize a specific antigen presented on the surface of infected or abnormal cells. Okay? In terms of the helper cells or helper T cells or the CD4+, etong mga cells na to, sila yung nag-a-assist in the activation of other immune cells, including yung mga B cells and cytotoxic T cells. So, they usually play a role in coordinating the immune response. Now, for the cytotoxic cells naman, directly sila na umaatake and pumapatay sa infected or abnormal cells. Okay? Infected or abnormal cells. Kumbaga normal cell pa lang. So since it was already being infected by pathogens kumbaga or any foreign objects, ang mangyayari ngayon yung mga abnormal cells or infected cells, ang gagawin ni cytotoxic cells since it is already infected, since it is already abnormal, papatayin niya. Okay? Papatayin niya ngayon. Yun yung gagawin ni cytotoxic cells. And then we have the B cells or the B lymphocytes. So, yung B naman dito, it is being derived from the bursa of Fabricius. Fabricius sana to. It is not Fabricus. Lagyan nyo lang ng I after ng C. Fabricius. This is just an organ na nakikita sa mga birds. Pero sa mga mammals naman, including na tayo, na tao, yung mga B cells, they usually mature in the bone marrow. So doon din na-derive yung yung name na B. Okay, B cells. Okay? Ang pinaka ano naman nito, ang pinaka function naman ng mga B cells, we have humoral immunity. Okay? Involved sila sa humoral immunity, which is the production ngayon ng antibodies that will circulate in the body fluids. Okay? Yung mga humors. Okay? So antibody production. So when activated by encountering an antigen, yung mga B cells natin, it can differentiate into plasma cells that produce antibodies. Okay? Ano ba yung mga antibodies? These are just proteins that can neutralize pathogens para ma-mark them for destruction or ma-enhance yung other immune responses. And then another one, memory B cells. Ito naman, yung mga iba na B cells, they will become memory B cells para ma-provide yung long-term immunity, para ma-remember. Parang mas easy na, kumbaga, if there is an exposure again ng same na antigen, okay? Pag if there is an exposure again ng same antigen na papasok sa katawan ng animal, ang mangyayari dito, meron tayong tinatawag na memory B cells. Matatandaan na nila. Okay? And they will know already on how to produce yung specific antibodies for that specific antigen. Okay? Yun yung ginagawa naman dito. And then another one, we have the natural killer cells or the NK cells. So sila naman is just a part of the immune response. Nag-act sila as the body's first line of defense against infected din or abnormal cells. So kumbaga, ganun din yung nangyari kanina sa cytotoxic T cells, ganito din sa natural killer cells. So if they will recognize, okay, if they will recognize a specific cell to be infected or to be stressed or to be abnormal, okay, ang mangyayari dito, ide-destroy ni natural killer cell. And then we have another one, the monocytes. This is just around 2 to 8% of the white blood cells naman. So sila naman is phagocytosic. Okay, they are phagocytosic cells. So ganun din, they can engulf and digest foreign particles or foreign objects like yung mga bacteria, yung mga viruses, yung mga debris from cellular processes, kumbaga. So yun yung nangyayari. Okay? And then tissue macrophages. So once na tong monocytes will leave the bloodstream and will enter the tissues, they undergo further differentiation and become tissue macrophages. Okay? Etong tissue macrophages na to, this is very important in immune surveillance within the various organs and tissues. Kasi yung mga macrophages na to, they will perform phagocytosis to remove yung mga pathogens, yung mga patay na cells and other debris that could contribute to tissue repair and homeostasis. Antigen presentation, kumbaga after phagocytosis, they will present a fragment of these pathogens or yung mga antigens on their cell surface. So etong presentation na to is very crucial in activating other immune cells, particularly yung mga T cells natin. Okay? And then cytokine production, they will produce etong mga to. Etong cytokine kasi, it is very important in the regulation of immune response, inflammation, and communication between different immune cells. Okay? Wound healing and tissue repair. So ganun lang din sa mga macrophages kanina, and then immune system regulation. So this is now the breakdown of the percentage of the white blood cells in the body. So neutrophils, sila yung pinaka-abundant, 55 to 70%. The lymphocytes, 20 to 40%. The monocytes, 2 to 8%. The eosinophils, 1 to 4%. And the rarest white blood cells, we have the basophils, which are only 0.5 to 1% of the total white blood cells. Okay, eto naman, kung makikita ninyo, I have just included on how an immune cell chases down and destroys bacteria. Okay? So parang ano lang to, kumbaga hinahabol lang niya yung mismong bacteria. And then, ito naman is just a white blood cell attacking a virus. So parang ano siya, kumbaga yung mga ants natin, if there is a predator doon sa kanilang kumbaga place, they will attack it as a group. So yun yung mga blood cells natin. Then we have the platelets. So I will just discuss it kung paano naman magkakaroon ng clotting. Okay? Sabi dito, this is ang platelets, these are very important factor during blood vessel walls are being damaged and they will play a great role in blood reaction. So there are two major na processes. We have the adhesion. So when a blood vessel is being injured, so ang mangyayari dito, yung mga platelets, they will adhere to the exposed collagen fibers in the damaged area. Okay? Yung adhesion, this is facilitated by a specific adhesion molecules on the surface of platelets and the damaged endothelial cells lining the blood vessels. So after adhesion, there will be a release of chemical signals. So yung mga adherent platelets, they will release a chemical signal such as yung mga yung serotonin, yung thromboxane, okay, thrombo, parang doon sa thrombocytes, but then thrombo tapos sine, X-A-N-E, okay, thromboxane. And then yung serotonin, which usually um, ina-attract nila yung mga other platelets para pumunta doon sa site of injury. Okay? Etong mga chemical signals na to, very helpful ito in the activation of additional platelets. So, ganun ang mangyayari if they will attract a specific platelet, hindi kaagad kasi na ma-activate yung mismong platelet. Okay? Kailangan na ma-activate muna. And that is number 1, activation. So yung mga platelets, they will undergo a change doon sa kanilang shape and magre-release ng granules na granules na containing various substances upon activation. So etong pag-change ngayon ng shape and pag-release ng granules, this is very important for the subsequent steps in the clotting process. Okay, basta number 1, kailangan merong change ng shape and pag-release ng granules para ma-activate. Okay, there is an activation of the platelets. And then, yung mga activated platelets, they will stick together. So, ibig sabihin, they will be aggregated. Yun na yung tatawag natin na aggregation. Okay? Yung mga activated na platelets, they will be aggregated para makapag-form ng isang plug na makakapag-cover doon sa breach ng blood vessel. Okay? So, etong aggregation, this is facilitated ng isang plasma protein which is what we call as the fibrinogen or the fibrinogen. Ito is a plasma protein na nagbabind sa mga receptors on the surface of activated na platelets para ma-link them together. Okay? So that is for aggregation. And then number 3, after aggregation, yung mga platelets, they will contract para ma-pull nila yung mga torn areas of the blood vessel together in a process that we call as now as clot retraction. It should be that clot retraction ito, hindi clot reaction. Clot retraction. Okay? So ang nangyayari dito sa clot retraction, tumutulong ito na ma-reduce yung size ng wound and ma-promote yung repair ng blood vessel. Okay? So that is for clot retraction. And then number 4, that is coagulation cascade. So yung mga platelets natin, they will play a vital role in the coagulation cascade. That is a complex series ng events na nag-lead to the formation of a stable blood clot. Okay? So it will involve now yung activation ng mga various na blood clotting factors and it will lead to the conversion of fibrinogen into fibrin. which will form a mesh that it stabilizes the platelet plug. And then the last one, wound healing. So yung clot na na-form by the platelets and fibrin, it will provide a temporary seal ngayon over the wound para ma-prevent yung further na blood loss. Okay, so that is for the platelets. And then we have the last one, we have the plasma. So it is a fluid portion. So the majority of the plasma is usually composed of water, okay, making up approximately around 90% of its volume. So bakit kaya kailangan na 90% ng water? No? Yung high water content ngayon, it will provide yung mismong fluidity which is necessary sa movement ng mga cells and substances within the bloodstream. And then meron silang number of ions. They contain number of ions which are electrically charged particles. Lalong-lalo na yung mga plasma ions natin which are the sodium, okay, yung mga sodium ions, potassium ions, calcium ions, yung mga chloride, bicarbonate, yung mga phosphate, okay? So ang ginagawa naman tong mga ions na to, they will maintain yung osmotic balance, yung pH regulation, mga ganun, yung mga electrical excitability ng mga cells. In organic molecules, ito yung mga gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide. Okay? Kasi yung oxygen that is being carried by the hemoglobin sa mga red blood cells, while yung carbon dioxide that is transported in various forms, including yung mga dissolved na carbon dioxide and yung mga bicarbonate ions. Organic molecules naman, ito naman yung mga nutrients, no? Yung mga proteins, yung mga lipids, yung mga hormones, yung mga nutrients. So ano ba yung mga plasma proteins natin? We have yung albumin, yung globulins, yung fibrinogen, okay? So, ito yung mga albumins na to, they will contribute sa osmotic pressure. Tapos yung mga globulins naman, they are involved sa immune response and pag-transport ng lipids. Tapos yung fibrinogen, this is for blood clotting. And then for the lipids, ano yung mga plasma lipids? We have yung cholesterol, yung triglycerides, and then yung mga phospholipids. Okay? And then yung mga hormone, we have, ano ba yung mga hormone? Yung mga plasma hormones natin. We have the insulin, we have the glucagon, yung mga thyroid hormones natin, which are the T3 and T4, yung triiodothyronine and then the thyroxine. Okay? And then yung mga nutrients, yun na, yung mga glucose, amino acids, yung mga fatty acids, mga ganun. And then 3 to 5% of body weight lang. 3 to 5% of the body weight ng plasma. Now, I have just included here one fact about the heart. Just parang ano lang to, kumbaga sideway. Parang patalastas lang. Meron tayong tinatawag dito na broken heart syndrome. Okay? Which is also known as the stress cardiomyopathy or the Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. So sabi dito, this is just a recently recognized condition that is proposed to be associated with psychiatric illness. Okay, this condition is characterized by onset of symptoms mimicking coronary heart disease and is commonly linked with experience of significant stress. Okay, so ito is just called as the stress cardiomyopathy or Takotsubo. Takot as in takot and then subo as in subo in Tagalog. And then cardiomyopathy. Yung Takotsubo kasi it is being derived into Japanese. So sabi dito, individuals can die from a broken heart. So if you are suffering from a broken heart, so you can have this one na broken heart syndrome. Kasi there is now an evidence based from the study of Marshall in 2016. One's heart can suffer a severe and sometimes fatal physiologic consequence after a severe emotional stressor. And it is being caused by stress hormones, which is the catecholamines. Okay? So, but in the small percentage of cases that may be fatal, those individuals do indeed die from a broken heart. So, papaano ba nangyayari yung mismong broken heart syndrome or yung Takotsubo cardiomyopathy? Ang nangyayari kasi dito, nagwi-weaken yung left ventricle ng heart. Like for example, if you are broken-hearted, okay, kumbaga, binasted ka ng nililigawan mo or kumbaga, um, na-ghost ka ng kinakausap mo or kumbaga, hiniwalayan ka ng jowa mo, mga ganun. So, 'di ba, if you could experience, parang medyo masakit yung heart mo. Okay? There is a pain. It's because of this one. This is scientifically proven na nagwi-weaken yung left ventricle ng heart. Ano ba yung left ventricle? Based from my discussion, that is the main chamber na nagpapump ng blood. Okay? So nagwi-weaken siya, it's because to a severe emotional state or severe na physical stress. Kaya kapag hirap na mag-pump yung ventricle, hirap din mag-circulate yung blood sa mga parts ng body. Kaya walang oxygen supply since yung RBC, hindi niya nararating yung parts na kailangan ng oxygen. Okay? So I hope you have understood well what is being what we call as broken heart syndrome. So ano daw? Pero yung broken heart syndrome, hindi lang ito about sa love ha. It's more pwede din ito, grief from the death of a loved one or other large or meaningful loss. And then good news, so hindi rin daw pwede na merong, lalong-lalo na sa mga tao na magugulatin. Okay? Bad news, extreme anger, and then sa mga physical stressors, severe pain and exhausting physical events. So that ends my lecture about the cardiovascular system, and I hope you have understood well the topics included here. Okay, so thank you very much for listening.